Welcome to this week's episode of the Real World Podcast. This week I'm joined by Mackenzie Haldane, 22-year-old entrepreneur living the life in Dubai. Mackenzie talks us through his journey from being a footballer to entrepreneurship and now a dropshipping expert that's turned over £1.9 million in the last few years. He's made massive strides in his business and life. He's a really committed, interesting young entrepreneur. And this is a great episode. So without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome to this week's episode of the Real Wealth Podcast, and welcome Mackenzie Haldane. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks for coming, and a fair trip, I suppose, to get here. And we'll talk about that in a bit. But I think where I'd like to start is, you have got into entrepreneurship at a really young age. You're 22 now?
Yeah, just turned 22. Yeah.
Tell me a bit about the journey that led you into entrepreneurship rather than going down the kind of traditional route that a lot of guys do.
For sure. So yeah, just a brief summary. It was probably sports was my first sort of love or whatever. I was quite talented in terms of football. I played for Partick Thistle, obviously. And based in Falkirk, but played with Partick Thistle. Ultimately, I thought I was going to be a professional footballer. Got released, as most people do. And then also I did karate. So I was a black belt, 16-time Scottish karate champion, fought in Europeans. So that was a possibility as well, but there's not money to be made in karate. Ultimately got released from football, went into the 95, but the whole time I knew I wasn't going to go down the traditional path. Do you know what I mean? Go to university, get a degree, get a mortgage, do you know what I mean? All that kind of stuff, the traditional path. And so entrepreneurship was something I always wanted to do, and something I always tried, just the generic selling sweets in school, or selling FIFA coins on Ultimate Team, all that kind of thing. And so dropshipping's something I came across very early. The age of 16 is when I created my first Shopify store. Tried it, sold jewellery, maybe made like a couple £100, but didn't have a good understanding. So stopped doing that when I was 18, got into the traditional 9 to 5, so doing joinery, construction, 12-hour days, 14-hour days, working away for 3 weeks at a time. So it was quite full on, and I knew I hated it.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I was quite fortunate in the sense that it was so bad, like the money was bad, the environment was bad, the actual what I was doing was terrible, that I was in so much pain, like not physically but internally, that I had to make that sort of change. Came across dropshipping, tried it again, and fast forward I've made just under 1.9 million in sales in the past 2 years.
Incredible. There's a couple of things that you mentioned there, certainly in terms of the kind of sports and playing football and karate and stuff. What I see quite a lot in entrepreneurs and guys that are successful in life is they seem to have had this kind of structure within life that kept them on a path. It takes quite a lot of discipline to be trying to become a professional footballer. You need to be turning up at training. You can't be out drinking with your mates. There's a lot of structure around that. And I guess the same with the karate. It teaches you at an early age to have structure in your life and to be heading towards a goal. There's so many kids that don't get that from a young age, and not having that structure, I think, can almost take you on a path that leads you in a very different direction. How much do you think that influenced where you're at now?
Yeah, 100%. I think how you do most things is how you do everything. So if you're hardworking, you have discipline, you show up early, leave late in sports or whatever kind of discipline you do, that translates throughout the rest of your life. Do you know what I mean? So I do think having that sort of structure and discipline that martial arts taught me, and obviously sports, did translate into obviously what I'm doing now. I know what it takes to be the best. Not saying I'm the best, but to actually get to a decent level, you need to be willing to put in the work and not just, like you say, treat it like a side hustle or be directionless. You need to have an end goal, something that you're working towards. And I think that is healthy. If it's a monetary goal or if it's something that you just want to do internally, I do think it's good to have a sort of North Star that you're working towards.
What was the pivotal point at football when you decided, right, this isn't going to be the path, time to explore the next option?
So I was at Partick Thistle for around 5-6 years. Obviously got released, but lots of people get released. And I was quite confident in my ability, as I always thought, not in bad way, but I thought I was better than people. I thought putting the work in, so I deserved it. But obviously got released, and then I was just playing one game randomly. It was at a boys' club, and my heart just started beating relatively quick. And it was, at the time, I didn't know what it was, but it was an anxiety attack. And so that happened maybe 5 games in a row, kept happening just randomly. So after that kept happening, I was like, look, it's not going to work out if this keeps happening. So I ended up quitting football. And by that point,
do you feel like you got to the bottom of what was causing the anxiety?
I think it was just the sports anxiety. Like, you have so much pressure on, like, you need to perform. If you don't perform, you get released, or do you know what I mean? I think it was just so much like external sort of pressure, and that's probably what made me fall out of love with the game. But by the time I ended up quitting football, I didn't really care. I was more relieved that I don't need to do this anymore. And I think that's something that is massive, because there's a Jordan documentary, like Michael Jordan, it's called To The Max, and they say to him, like, oh, how do you become the best? What's the best training? What's it like, all the optimal stuff to do? And his answer was just fall in love with the game, because the person that loves doing what they're doing will always go further. It's like the man who loves walking will walk further than the man who doesn't. And so I fell out of love with it, and when I left, it was kind of full focus on doing dropshipping. Not really doing dropshipping, but starting my own entrepreneurship kind of
finding the route in a business.
100%.
So was there a kind of a moment in time where, you know, something inspired you to go down the drop shipping? Was it a book? Was it, you know, online content? What was the thing that kind of drove you down that route?
I think it was probably YouTube. Initially I came across a guy, I think his name was Tanner something, who did Amazon FBA. So it's the same as dropshipping, it's e-commerce, selling products on the internet. However, with Amazon, you do need more startup capital for your inventory, your fulfillment costs, and which I didn't have at the time. I was only earning £150 a week. So came across a dropshipping video, and like I say, it was mainly Americans that you see online and YouTube at the time especially, and I must have just thought, if they can do it, I can do it. And it was quite low barrier of entry. You don't need a lot of money, you don't need stock, inventory, staff, all that kind of thing. So started with dropshipping because it was cheap, and for me it just seemed easy. It's like, if you do this, do that. I'm not going to say it's easy, but what I would say, it's simple. So there's a difference. If it was easy, everyone would do it. However, simple just means if you follow X, Y, Z, you achieve a certain result, and that's what I did, and that's what I still do to this day, I think. Dropshipping, even still, I would recommend is the best business model to start. Obviously there's loads to pick from: Amazon, dropshipping, affiliate marketing, Forex. There's so many, but I definitely think dropshipping teaches you so many skills in just how to run a business.
So the difference, when we talk about dropshipping, the difference between that and Amazon FBA, as I understand, Amazon FBA is fulfilled by Amazon, so you buy the stock, they warehouse it, they send it out for you, as opposed to dropshipping where it's just ordered, like, you know, made to order type thing, right?
Yeah, 100%. With Amazon, you purchase the item up front, so you don't actually validate the product. You can validate it through like spy tools and stuff, but you'll buy a product, probably cost between 3,000 to 5,000, send it to Amazon. Once someone goes on Amazon and purchases the item, Amazon will send it to the customer, charge you a fee, and that's how you make your profit. However, the difference between dropshipping and Amazon, why I'm more in favour of dropshipping for Shopify, is one, on Amazon, it's like search intent. You can't create intent. No one, I guarantee you've never went on Amazon and went, let me look for products. You go on already knowing what you're going to buy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whereas with dropshipping, you can literally have the ability to sell something to someone that they didn't even know they wanted. You get it in front of them, you show them what problem they're having, why this will solve that problem, show them a couple of benefits, and then if you have an offer, i.e. the product is cheap or is a decent value, they'll purchase it. And as long as it's of decent quality, they'll be happy with it. So it's infinitely scalable, and you just put more money behind ads and you can scale up to.
I think that's one of the obvious downsides to me with Amazon FBA is you've got this scenario where you have a product that doesn't sell quickly enough, in which case you end up paying Amazon storage fees for the product because if it's not shifting. Conversely, if you find a product that sells too quickly, there's a decent chance Amazon are going to replicate it and undercut you, in which case you're not going to be selling anything. So I have, you know, I think there was a period in time where Amazon were really fucking ruthless with that sort of thing, and it was killing a lot of their sellers. So I heard more recently they've kind of lightened up on it, but you know, obviously Amazon is a big machine trying to make a huge amount of money. So
yeah, I do think with Amazon, like you say, everyone's selling the same products. Obviously, you can white label it, which means putting your own logo on it essentially. But if you have no USP, if you have no brand, it's just a race to the bottom. The only way to differentiate yourself is be the cheapest, and there's no benefit to being the cheapest on the market. However, there is a benefit to being the most expensive. It will create that lure. There's no also benefit to being the second most expensive. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think obviously with dropshipping you can create that brand, And to me, a brand's the way something makes you feel. And it's like a plain white t-shirt versus a Nike t-shirt.
Yeah.
It costs like 10 times the amount just because of the logo and probably the same factory. So yeah, you can create the brand and you can also sell the company or the store. Typically in dropshipping, it's around 2.5x your yearly earnings.
Yeah.
So if you're making, say, 50k a month profit, which would obviously be 600k a year, you could maybe get 1.2 to 1.5 million out of that, depending on the buyer.
Okay, wow. So you mentioned very briefly at the start that since you've began your dropshipping journey, you're talking about what, 2.5 years, something like that, is it?
So my first store was when I was 16, so 5.5 years, but only 2.5 years since I've started making money or profit money, what I would say. Yeah.
So 1.9 million in that time. I mean, that's a huge amount of sales and not that big a period. You know, what are the secrets? What would you say has driven that level of growth?
I'd probably say, well, two things. One, product, having something that people want, because you can't create desire, you can only channel it. So if you have something that people already want, you just put it in front of them and they'll buy it. Whereas it's a lot more difficult to make someone want to buy something that they don't actually want.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's having a product that has product market fit first of all, and then there's a few things that go into that. So obviously a winning product to me is something that, one, people want, two, has a big addressable market, so a lot of people want it, and three, has a wow factor, something that will stop the scroll, because it's all done through social media.
Yep.
And the average person swipes the height of the Eiffel Tower every day. So if they're scrolling and your product doesn't stick out or your advertisement doesn't stick out, they're going to keep going by it. So I think having something that catches the eye. So that's probably the first thing, a winning product. And then two is just marketing. So to me, every business is sales and marketing. So something to sell, which we just covered, and then marketing is making people aware of it. And there's only 4 ways really to do that. There's cold and warm, and so you've got one-to-one cold and one-to-one warm, and you've got one-to-many cold and warm also. So one-to-one cold would just be like messaging people on Instagram you don't know, right?
Yeah.
And it can work, but it's a lot of man hours required. And then also, obviously you've got one-to-one warm, which is messaging people who you do know. So that's probably a little bit better. Then one-to-many cold is paid ads, and that's something that if you crack and understand, you can make a hell of a lot of money. And that's what I've done. I think probably cracking paid ads for me was something that's... What's
been the most successful form of paid ads for you in generating that revenue?
For me, I do Facebook ads. So there's been days, well, this January to March, I earned £500,000, just under £500,000 in revenue. And I think I was spending like £3,500 a day on ads. Yeah. So obviously that's a ridiculous sum of money that some people may think, but obviously you're only spending it if you're generating more. So
it's all about the return.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, can you put in £1 and can you get free out? And that's the way I look at it. The analogy I give is like, if you have a wishing well and you put in £1 and it gives you £5 out, how much money are you going to put in?
As much as you possibly can.
Whereas if you put in £1 and you get 20p out, you'll maybe be like, whoa, what's happening? So yeah, once you find something that works, you can scale it up. Last year I was doing 3k a day.
And I think the challenge with a lot of businesses in making that move to scale, and not some of it's cash flow and having the more money to put in, but a lot of it comes from systems and infrastructure. So there's a lot of business out there that you said, okay, well, if you spend double on marketing, tomorrow you're going to get double revenue. They might not be able to facilitate it, but I guess that's one of the benefits of the dropshipping model in terms of its scalability, right?
Yeah, exactly. With dropshipping, you essentially use the customer's money to fulfill their order. So if I'm selling, for instance, this cup here for £30, I'll then use your money and purchase the item from a supplier for like a £5. So I just keep the £25.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can use that. So you don't actually need a lot. However, like I said, that works at small scale. However, if you're maybe selling 300 items a day, you're going to have a lot of people, a lot of cash flow, maybe issues. So you can also use credit cards, and like I say, you might need other sort of sources of funding. You might not have the infrastructure in place to scale up quick.
What has been the most successful product in the mix for you? Or is that a trade secret?
Yeah, I can tell you, but they obviously kill you. But yeah, I think...
Well, what types of products generally are the best?
Yeah, so the only product I really reveal, I've only really ran two like successful stores. One was the first one I ran, which generated me 6 figures, 113,000. So that's what got my foot in the door. And that was an LED diffuser. So just something to make sure house smell nice or your car smell nice, and it captured my eye. So I seen that, and I can't remember who I came across it, but I just think I was scrolling through TikTok, seen it, and I seen the video that someone posted of it. It went viral. So that's one thing I look for. Has it already went viral? Is it already selling? I don't want to try and sell something that's never been sold before. So it was already selling and it was already getting sales. So I knew if I can market that slightly better or make my website slightly better, I should be able to replicate the results.
How do you get a feel for the level of sales on an existing product?
Yeah, so it's probably just the way I look at it is if there's advertisements. So you say you see it, Nike for instance, not Nike, but let's say you see a company advertising a product over and over every day, you keep seeing the ad or different ads, then there's a highly likelihood that they're making money because they're not running that for the kindness of their heart or for their own benefit. So I do think if you see a product over and over, either online just by seeing content or if you keep seeing ads of a company, and if they've been running for a long period of time, there's a good chance it's already selling.
Yeah. Talk to me about the supply chain process. So like I'm assuming, and we're talking about sort of fast moving consumer good type things. I guess a lot of that's been in China, right?
Yeah, so basically my supplier's in China, and I've got a private supplier, which means that he's connected to my Shopify store directly. So in terms of fulfillment, sending customer emails, in terms of like tracking information, updating delivery, it's all automated. So as soon as I get an order, he'll receive it on his system, whatever Chinese system he's using. He'll get all the orders, all the customer information, if they've ordered different variants, and then he'll, maybe not him specifically, but one of his team will package it, ship it out through one of the faster Chinese shipping sort of suppliers. So you've got like Unexpress, you've got UBI, you've got all the fast ones. The traditional ones are pretty slow, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, and that's not.
Well, I noticed that recently, and you know, I don't do I kind of have a lot of online ordering, but you know, I remember back to the days of ordering stuff from AliExpress, and it's like a month later it comes. But whereas you can go on Temu now and things are delivered pretty quickly, so there has been almost a revolution in that recently, and it's brought down the cost of things so much.
Yeah, I think the shipping time is probably the biggest drawback of dropshipping. Let's say most people have the connotations of it, so you wait a month or 2 months and it arrives and it's crap. Whereas if you do have a good supplier and they're all getting better, like say with the likes of Temu and stuff, you can get items delivered within 5 to 7 days, which is obviously relatively quick, but most consumers are that used to Amazon next day delivery. So I do think the customer always thinks they're right, and when you're running a business, obviously you need to think they're right, but sometimes if you're answering the customer support emails, which I don't actually do, but you feel quite entitled, I think.
I mean, for me it's probably one of the hardest things of running a business is you know, having to keep a lot of people happy, you know, in terms of your clientele, but you know, they are the guys that keep the lights on, and it's about balancing, you know, what the expectations are against what's being delivered, and that's not always easy when people have unrealistic expectations, right?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, they are the ones keeping the lights on. The only reason you're in business is because they're the ones paying you. And so I do think you do need to keep them happy, because you don't get customers to make sales, you make sales to get customers, someone who's going to come back and purchase again, or if you're selling a service, come back to you and keep giving you that sort of recurring revenue type thing.
Would you say, what is the kind of ideal number of products you would be dealing with? You know, I guess you're not constantly adding new things or trialing new things, or you've got solid, reliable products at work. Are they quite transient as well? Does it come and go, and then, you know, that product will maybe sell for a month, and then all of a sudden you're something else?
Got it. So going back to the diffuser example, I sold that for I think 6 months, and then it fizzled out. And probably at the time, maybe the product didn't fizzle. I think it was just my expertise that I wasn't refreshing my creatives, i.e. like my adverts that I was posting. So I didn't do that. I didn't understand anything to do with that. So the product I'm running now, I've been running for just over 2.5 years, or maybe just under 2.5 years. So quite a long time. Most dropshipping products are typically 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. But I do think it's all about the creatives. And if you can keep refreshing that and it's all about just refreshing your marketing message. But this has been 2.5 years, and it's more or less one product, which is quite surprising.
That is shocking, actually, because, you know, I tied a lot of this to social media, as you said before, and things tend to go viral for a short period of time and then die a death, you know. So it's incredible to see a 2.5 year product.
Yeah. To be fair, some products are more seasonal. So for instance, you might have like a fan will obviously sell more during the summer, or in the same way jackets will sell more during the winter. Whereas the product is quite evergreen, meaning you can buy it any day, any month, any time. So yeah, I do think probably finding a product that is consistent and is evergreen is going to give you more sort of cash flow long term.
How often are you always on the hunt for new products? Is it something that's just you just can't help yourself to always be looking at the next thing? Or?
Yeah, see, to be fair, like, see, once you see it, you can't unsee it. So now, like, I'm on Instagram or whatever and I'm just scrolling. If I ever see an ad, I know straight away that's a dropshipping product. I know how much he's buying for, how much he's selling for. So like naturally that's what I see. Same way now, if I see an advert, I know the framework that most adverts follow. So it's like you've got the hook, you've got the problem, solution, benefits, call to action. So once I've seen it, you can't really unsee it. But in terms of like me actually going out and looking for products, I do have a list of ones that I know that if this one I'm selling just now dies out, I can go straight away and sell. But nah, I don't really look at, to be honest, I don't really do much. Probably 15 minutes a day is what I do, and that's just checking my ads, maybe checking the orders and sent. I don't really do a lot, but you could say that's complacency. Because when I was in Dubai, one of my ad accounts got shut down, and I was spending, shall I say, just upwards of £3,000 per day on that, and so like that got shut down, my advertising went to zero, and so my cash flow went from maybe I was doing I think between 3 to 8k day revenue went down to maybe £300. So I think I was maybe overly reliant on one product or on one sort of channel. So that taught me a good lesson, but it's fixing it.
I mean, that can be a painful lesson, and we've experienced that in our business over the last couple of months. We, you know, a big part of our business is property. We source below market value properties online, and our advertising comes through We Buy Home Scotland, which is, you know, just like a fast buy home seller. It's all driven by, you know, online marketing, mostly Google PPC. And for some reason, a couple of months ago, our Google PPC account went down. And then when we tried to get it back up and running, you know, there was something to do with the back end on our website where it wasn't converting, and all of our leads shut off for a month whilst we got in a new PPC expert to figure it out for us and sort it out. But, you know, it goes to show you, like, you know, it's the lifeblood of your business, those leads coming in. And if they just switch off, it can be hugely painful. And that's where I guess people come back to with any business of saying, you know, you should have a couple of months of overheads minimum, probably more like 3 to 6 months of overheads in terms of cash in the bank, just to cover those times where, you know, these things can hit you out of nowhere.
Yeah, 100%. I do think when that happened, obviously it was quite daunting, like you say. Leads are the lifeblood of any business, like I say, sales and marketing. And yeah, I'm quite fortunate in the position that I don't actually spend a lot of money. I live well below my means, so I did have quite a lot of cash in the bank, so I wasn't really too bothered. And there's another quote, it's like, I stand here truthfully unafraid, not because of the path that lies ahead of me, but because of the path that lies behind me. So I knew I was so confident in my skill set that I could create up another, replicate my success, because you're better to be aware of your failures than to be ignorant of your success, because if you don't understand why you succeeded, how are you going to replicate it? Do you know what I mean? And whereas if you understand why you failed, you can make iterations, you can teach other people, and you're able to, let's say, go again and regroup.
I mean, when you talked about, you know, that switching off and the fact that you felt maybe there was a bit of complacency there, I guess one of the beautiful things about what you're setting up with it is, though, it can be fairly passive. And once you've got the systems in place, you've got the ads running, you've got your creatives, okay, you refresh them every so often, that's a lot of money coming in the bank passively, right? And people talk about, you know, passive income as this potentially unreal thing, but, you know, things can be extremely passive.
Yeah, 100%. I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, I wouldn't say passive income exists, because even though just now there may be days where I don't even open my laptop and I've maybe made $2,000, $3,000, and that's what people say that's passive. But to me, it's just front loading the work. It's like a slingshot effect. So if you like work, you're just pulling back the slingshot so much, and then eventually when it goes, you might not be working for that period. However, you might have done 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years work prior. So yeah, I do think some days I'll maybe let's say go on a laptop 15 minutes and make 3k, so you could say my hourly rate's what, 12 grand an hour. So it's definitely it's good.
I've always preferred the Robert Kiyosaki quadrant to the form of passive income, and his quadrant is...
I was literally about to say that,
You've got the employee, self-employed, business owner, investor, and it's about transitioning from a business owner that's involved in the guts of the business every day to the investor that just sits above and kind of says, okay, how are things running? What are numbers looking like? You know, what the sales been, the systems are in place, the teams there to do it. And in various parts of our business, we're kind of working towards this investor status where, you could say it's passive, but, you know, nothing's ever entirely passive. You still need to keep your finger on the pulse.
You're 100%. I was actually just about to say that, because I was on the way here, I was listening to the Almanac of Naval Ravikant. So that was similar about that, but I was also talking about leverage. And I do think, like, that was me. So I was obviously an employee in a job. And then when I started my business, I gained more leverage. So I was now self-employed. And most people think they're business owners, whereas they're just self-employed. They go from a job where they're working 8 hours a day to a job where they're working 12 hours a day, and they don't switch off, because you probably know yourself, like, you're constantly working. Even if you're not like physically present, you're mentally thinking about it. And then it's obviously transition to the business owner, where you may have more leverage again. So you may have like staff, which is the kind of first form of leverage. So you've got maybe a supplier who sends out all the orders. You have a customer service agent who responds to all the emails. So that's probably the stage I was at in terms of that. And then obviously you move to the investor, where you maybe invest in other people's companies or invest in people.
Sit back a bit more passively. Talk to me about the customer relationship side of it, because products must go wrong. There must be challenges. There must be comeback. How big an issue is, you know, refunding products, getting the products back, that whole process?
So in terms of keeping the customer happy, I do think it's vitally important, because like you say, leads are the lifeblood of a business, and also marketing. And so with dropshipping, on Facebook, Instagram, like these advertising platforms, you have what's called a page score. So it's like, or an advertising ranking. So if you send an item, say I sell 100 items to 100 different people, Facebook and TikTok will survey the people and say, like, how is the product, how is the shipping times, how is the kind of communication, all these different metrics. And then based on their feedback, Facebook or TikTok will give you what's called a feedback score. And if your feedback score gets too low, then that's it. You're took off the platform. So if I ever get a complaint, the product arrived damaged or it broke or anything, I'll just send them a replacement. Because say I'm selling an item for £30, it only cost me a £5. So they think they're getting £30 of value, whereas it's only costing me. I'm still at a profit. So
I've noticed a big transition in stuff recently, where you buy it, it's damaged, they just send you another one. They don't even bother about, like, can you send the old one back? There's none of that. And I'm not even necessarily talking about small consumer goods. I'm talking about like pieces of furniture and stuff, where they just say, I will just send you another one, because it's not worth their while going to. But that's the thing, it's understanding the level of margin that's involved in these products.
100%. I think, like you said, knowing your numbers is so important. But just going back to that, like, it's so important to keep your customer happy, because the cost of advertising is only increasing. More and more people are coming on these platforms, and so the only way to mitigate that is to have positive word of mouth. So for instance, if you go somewhere and it's good, you get a good service or a good product, if you're lucky, you'll tell one person, right? You might probably tell no one. However, if you have a bad experience, you're away to tell everyone, you know, don't use this company, don't use that. And
absolutely, you're much more passionate about it when it's a negative, which is unfortunate, but it's how we're wired as humans. We have a similar situation in our business, where, you know, a big part of our cost is either salaries or marketing. Those are two big costs, and, you know, part of our business sources below market value deals. The other part of it is property investment training, and we have clients who we help build portfolios. You know, that's an information led product. It's our time. Really, the only cost associated with that is marketing, to bring people in to come and you know, and I guess that's the difference when you're dealing with physical products versus information products. I understand that's something that you're moving into as well. You've got clients you're supporting to scale a business in the way that you've done. Tell us a bit about that.
So just going back to that book earlier, The Almanac of Naval Ravikant, that's all what that's kind of about. And it's about finding your skill set and monetizing that, something you're passionate about or something you're just intrinsically good at. So I have the skill set of dropshipping, like being able to make, let's say, 6 figures per month. January, February, March, it was like 189,000 February was 186,000, and I think March was just over 100k. And so I now have the skill set that I can teach people. And since starting that, like you said, that kind of info product, it's more leverage. Like, it's something you need to create once and you can just sell with no time attached. So I do think that was something that opened my eyes, and the amount it's quite scalable and it's quite profitable, but at the same time you're paid in direct proportion to the size of the problems you solve. So if I'm able to show someone how to make 10k a month or 60k a month, like I've done, profit, and they would probably happily pay me 2k, 3k for that. Whereas, and that's probably the ultimate reason why anyone buys anything, because you think you're getting a deal, or because you think you're getting more than what you're paying for. So for instance, the reason why people buy McDonald's is because they think it's decent exchange, £6 for a burger. Whereas if that same burger was £60, no one would buy it. Of course. So I think it's all about having a lot of value to provide. And I'm doing the coaching now, like on a one-to-one basis, where I work with clients more closely, and we have like kind of calls, and I show them step by step on how to do everything. So I do think people need to be reminded more than they need to be taught. So I'm obviously here to teach people as well, but at the end of the day, once I show them, they know what to do. It's just about having someone there to be like, right, do this, make sure, keeping them accountable. It's the same reason why most people have personal trainers. Everyone knows to lose weight, go to the gym, eat clean, but they don't do it.
I feel like a lot of it, once you get past teaching the fundamentals, a lot of it comes down to mindset and keeping them on track, because the reason why most people fail in this is because they don't commit to it. They don't, they hit the first challenge and it's just like, nah, I'm out, this doesn't work. Rather than see it through, understand that there's going to be challenges ahead. And by the way, as you get bigger, the challenges only get bigger. You never get to a point where you can just sit back and say, right, I've got no worries in the world because I've got so much money. It just doesn't work that way. I actually heard someone talking about it the other day. I think it was Alfie Best, the gypsy billionaire guy, was just talking about, when you become that wealthy, you become a massive fucking target. Massive target for the tax man, massive target for anybody looking to exploit. Wealth does not solve those types of problems. So for me, it's a large part of it is accountability and mindset, and obviously helping them through dealing with challenges that come up.
Like you said, money only does solve money problems, and when you do get enough money to not work, like the only problems you're left for are ones that money can't solve. Maybe your health, maybe your relationships. And so that's something that probably I realised, let's say, since moving to Dubai, it was the most money I ever made. Let's say it was quite hefty profit margin, 60k, 50k, whatever. And I was left in a situation where I just had more problems. I had more ad account bans, I had more people messaging me, asking for handouts. I had my Stripe got shut down with 8k on it. So all these problems just kept happening. Even just a small one, like I had a tooth infection. I had to go to the dentist and pay like 2k for a new tooth. But I feel like that was just, do you know what I mean? Maybe the stress or all the kind of thing. But yeah, going back to the mindset. The mindset is the most important thing in terms of anything, because I truthfully believe that I could have done YouTube, property, Amazon, and still got to the same level of success, because I do think it's all about your beliefs and believing you can do it, because your beliefs dictate your worldviews. And so if you want to change your life, you must change your actions. But in order to change your actions, you must first of all change your belief system, because if you don't believe it's possible to make money as a property source or in property and have a portfolio, you'll never even take that step, or you never buy that course, or you never even take that first step. It
goes back to the TFAR model: thoughts, feelings, actions, results. You can't have the result without first having the thought.
Exactly.
And it all leads from there. You need to have the belief. Very, very much a big thing. So tell me about, what's your thoughts on AI and how that is likely to affect? Are there any AI tools that are a game changer when it comes to dropshipping, or is it still a bit faddy out there? The tools are a bit kind of early in development.
Yeah, so in terms of AI, I actually don't really rely on it too heavily. I know it's the new trend, right? It's like the new buzzword, and I'm sure there'll be a new buzzword or whatever that comes and goes. But for me, I don't really try and follow the trends. I actually don't like to consume any outside information. All the stuff that I've learned and has allowed me to get to the level I'm at is just through putting my own expertise into practice and learning from that. So I don't actually like to consume other people's like thoughts or even like any new softwares, because I feel like if you just copy what everyone else does, you'll get what everyone else has, which is tends to be nothing. And so I'm quite like channel focused, fully focused, singular focused on my own work. And in terms of AI, like obviously I say it's a new trend, but I don't really need it. You can help it to build stores and dropshipping, so you can, it's like an AI software that builds your store in 10 minutes, and it's the worst store ever. No one's buying from it. And I feel like people are always looking for that shortcut. Oh, how can I outsource this and have someone do it for me? Whereas I feel like, there is no shortcuts to say, no, I'm not in anything, but especially in dropshipping, there is no sort of shortcut.
I mean, you can see with a lot of the AI websites that it's still quite early in development, and it is quite obvious that it's AI that's doing it, but I've no doubt that stuff's going to move on pretty quickly, and I don't know, for me, I'm just always scared of being left behind on it, albeit I fully get where you're coming from with that at the moment, that people try to push creatives out on AI tools as well, and it just, it's disingenuous, I think, a lot.
100%. I do think, obviously, with the likes of AI, and it's just another form of leverage. So you've obviously got leverage in terms of people, so you can outsource work, labour. You've got in terms of leverage of code, which is probably AI, if you have a software that's doing stuff for you. So you can obviously outsource it, because it's more important to work smart than working hard. Because if hard work was the key to getting rich, all the NHS workers or labourers or whatever would be the highest paid. So I think people hear that and go, right, let me not work hard, let me just work smart. Whereas without understanding, you need to work so hard and work smart at the same time.
It's a lethal combination if you can manage both. And to that point, I seen a video you put on YouTube, which was like a 7-day challenge,
right?
Where you picked the product, took it through the process, and showed your results at the end of it. And I always find a lot of people that are, you started at the building sites and stuff like that. I'd love to get people in a room that are in that situation where they bust their ass, the whole month, working crazy hours to get maybe a couple of grand a month net on their salary, where within a week you showed with a basic kind of shower head product, I think you've done like 1.6k in sales, that the cost of that product is so small, your profit margin is like 1,200 quid in a week. It's like, people have to understand that there's another way, right? You don't have to be busting your ass for 50 hours, 60 hours a week in a job you hate, living your life like that.
100%. You hit the nail on the head. You don't need to, and it's also never going to work. It's impossible to get rich tying your time to money. You need to tie value the same way. If you're just trading, there's an MTV Cribs episode where it's like, oh, come see your crib, you got the cars. There's never been someone on there who's young and the answer don't say, oh, I work McDonald's for a living. It doesn't work.
No.
They're either a footballer, an athlete, an actor, an entrepreneur, meaning that they aren't trading time for money, they're trading value. And value in the sense is that they're impacting millions. So say, for instance, the actor example, millions of people are watching the show. The football example, millions of people are paying tickets to go. So if you can impact millions, you'll make millions, either through terms of scale, which is obviously helping a lot of people, or in terms of magnitude, if you can sell a high value item to a small amount of people.
It goes back to the fact that entrepreneurship is essentially professional problem solving, and anybody that comes in to start their own business goes back to the mindset thing. If you come in and expect to not have to deal with problems because you're going to have this wonderful passive income thing that you've heard so much about, it's not realistic. You're a professional problem solver. Problems get bigger, you get better at solving them, and that is how you're going to make the money. And the more people you can solve problems for, the more money you can make. It's really 100%, really quite a simple concept when you put it that way.
No, 100%. But just going back to the showerhead example, the only reason why, first of all, I ran that product was because my advertising, let's say my Facebook went down, and that I say I don't trade time for money now, I trade, let's say, value. So I'll rather run ads, put money to make me money, put in £1 and get 5. Whereas with the showerhead, what I did was I posted content. So it did require more time, but it was the only thing I could do. And I was like, if I get a YouTube video out, that's more leverage as well, that kind of thing. So done that, and I think that was, I've been posting on my stories days where I've made 8k sales in a day, and I think maybe people would look at that and think it's unrealistic or it's unachievable. Whereas when I showed that example, I feel like more people are like, oh, that's probably more realistic. If I was to say to people, here, you can make 100 quid a day doing this, they'd be like, oh, that's realistic, compared to saying you can make 3 grand a day.
And why that example is more attractive to people is because there wasn't really any serious investment to go on. You tell someone you need to spend 3.5 grand a day on Facebook ads, then they're going to get nervous. But it's just to show that if it can work at that scale, then there's no reason why you can't scale it up. And again, it's not about the scary number of $3,500 a month and a day in marketing going out. It's what comes in daily when you're spending that amount of money.
100%. I feel like a lot of people look at what they're spending rather than either what they're making or what they're losing. So just in terms of like buying, like obviously let's go back to that example. So if I'm putting 3k in a day, I'm wanting 6k out, 8k out. So I don't look at how much I spend, I look at how much I'm making. Also, like conversely, in terms of when buying stuff, I don't look at how much I'm spending, I look at how much I'm losing. So for instance, if I buy a Rolex that's 10 grand, I don't look at that and go, oh, I'm spending 10k. I look at that and go, how much will I lose? Probably zero, because it appreciates. So technically I've made 2k. Same way if I buy, like I've got just a standard Mercedes A-Class just now. I've had that for 4 years, but I bought that cash when I was 18 or 19. But at the time I didn't look and go, right, that's 22,000. I've spent 22k. I look at that and then if I sell that in 3 years time or 4 years time, it's 18k.
It's cost
me £4,000.
Yeah, exactly.
So I do think spending money is actually a skill. And like the more money I've spent, obviously not stupidly, but in terms of like stuff like that, I've made more always. And anytime I've ever cheaped out, you know, it's that old phrase, it's like buy cheap, buy twice. It's so true. Obviously there's all sorts of camera equipment here that probably cost thousands or tens of thousands. But whenever I've bought a cheap camera or a cheap tripod, it's broke. And I've had to then go and put my hand in my pocket and buy
again, exactly. I mean, I guess the first point with that is, you know, just understanding the difference between what an asset is and what a liability is the first kind of step for most people, and most people still don't understand that simple concept. It's either putting money in your pocket or it's taking money out, and that's it. And that's, you know, it goes back to the kind of Robert Kiyosaki thing, which was quite controversial with a lot of people. They don't kind of get it, but you know, you buy your own house, it's technically a liability because it's just taking money out of your pocket every month, right? Okay, if you're speaking in accounting speak, it's an asset, but it's not really, because it costs you money every month. You know, and it's not like it's cash that you're ever going to realise, because you always need a roof over your head, you know. So
100%. Even go back to like assets and liabilities, some things to most people, like to me, it all depends on the person, but for instance, I've still got a Mercedes, but I do plan on buying either a McLaren or a Urus very soon, next few months.
Oh, don't buy a Urus.
No,
that's a massive liability.
But
it has to be.
See, to be fair, right, that's what I was going to say. Like, say, obviously, you put your down payment on it, but I'm not sure what the monthlies will be. Just say $3 grand, $3 grand a month, right? But if you have, for instance, I don't know, maybe you're in a job where you need to look the part. That having that car might make you more than $3 grand, or even if you try to sell some sort of like a program, that would probably make you more than that anyway. So that's the way I kind of look at it.
Well, I mean, I get the point of that, and I fully buy into, you know, depending on what you're selling, you know, that can have a massive marketing impact. And actually, there's some ways to kind of get some of the tax back on it as a marketing tool. So that makes sense.
Because if you think about it, perception's reality. So the way you look will determine how people treat you. So imagine you're turning up to, I'm obviously not too familiar with like property and exactly what you do, but imagine you're going to an investor and say, here, I've got this deal, but you've rocked up in a Fiat Pinto. He's probably going to take you less serious compared to if you had like a nice Merc or a nice car and that kind of thing. So I do think
those things are important, definitely. I just don't like the Urus. I honestly, I think that's going to be one of the cars that depreciates massively. When you think about a car that's like going 100 grand over list price, drinks fuel, it's an SUV. True. It's basically the same as the
Q8 or something.
Audi RS Q8. And that's like 100 grand cheaper than the list on an Urus. I mean, it looks okay, but you know, it has to be better ways to hit your marketing strategy. Anyway, talk to me about the move to Dubai. What was the thinking? When did you make the move? What was the kind of catalyst?
Got it. So the move to Dubai was always something that was on my mind from probably a year and a half since when I first kind of got into the idea of moving. Obviously it's a massive move, but I do think where you stay in like your environment, so obviously you've got your physical environment and like who you're hanging around with, but also like where you stay, that will contribute probably 90% to your life, your friends, and obviously where you stay. So moving to Dubai, like I wanted to move when I was making X amount of money, but as soon as you reach that X amount of money, the goalposts just move, and it becomes, once I make that, it's like, I'll become happy when I make this. So I felt like there was never the right time, so I was just going to do it, take that chance. And being there, it was great. I made a hell of a lot of money in terms of just getting locked in. I was there myself, so I was sat on my laptop for the first month anyway, 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day, working non-stop, and so I enjoy working anyway. But moving to Dubai, yeah, that was brilliant. Obviously, you've got the benefits, the tax benefits, you've got the weather. Everywhere will have pros and cons, but to me the cons were obviously missing out your friends, missing out your family, and to me, like, it's paradoxical. The whole reason I got into entrepreneurship was to make money, but not to make money, but to get freedom. That's what money allows for. And so I was making money, and then I gave up my freedom to make more money. So I was like, what am I actually doing this for? And so coming back, I was obviously, I'm glad to be back. And I was maybe kind of second guessing it, but at the end of the day, I feel like you always think the grass is greener. Like for me anyway, anytime I was in Ibiza with my mates, I think that month I done 40,000 profit. But when I was in Ibiza, the ads were dying off, so it was kind of up and down. I can't wait to go home and work. And then when I went home and work, I was like, I can't wait to get away. So I feel like I'm always like, you just need to be present, and I think that being present will help. Like,
it's literally one of the hardest things to manage as a human being is that whole grass is greener thing. I worked abroad for a lot of my all in my 20s and in my early 30s, and most recently I spent 5 years in Azerbaijan, and it's like Baku's like a mini Dubai. They've got all the oil and gas wealth, they've got amazing buildings, they're spending a huge amount of money on the city centre, but they've still got quite a bit of poverty in the surrounding areas, and it's not quite there yet. But Baku's amazing. Sun shines every day. I had this amazing apartment that was just off the race circuit. So Baku do the Formula One, and it's a city track. So like the Formula One track came right below my balcony. Cool. So it was great. I loved it there. Like you say though, I'd given up on kind of life at home. I was away a lot. Hardly ever at home. And you do start to think, how much you're giving up for that. But then equally, if you were back here in the piss and rain every day, and I've been back in the UK now for 2 years, and I really struggle with it. The weather's just so fucking bad. So the reality for me, and I think this is where it worked the best for me, is when I was going back and forward fairly regularly. So, I think my kind of long-term objective is to be in Spain a decent amount of time, back in the UK, and kind of going between the two. And I think that's where I'm happy. So when I'm getting the diversity of it, not just like, okay, I'm over here and I'm stuck.
Exactly. No, I do think you've hit the nail on the head with that one. It's obviously good to have like a base, somewhere that's obviously where you pay a tax, or somewhere where your family is, but also having the flexibility to get up and go wherever. And that's why I do think going back to obviously that wealth quadrant, like being a business owner allows you so much freedom and so much leverage. So like I could decide one day, I want to go home, get in a flight and I'm there. Whereas I don't need to say to my boss, can I request a holiday? Can I do this? Can I do that? And so I think having that flexibility is good. Whereas most people go to Dubai, not most people, but some people go to Dubai and obviously just get the 9-to-5 over there, like maybe the real estate job. And I think on paper or on Instagram it looks better than what it is, because you only see them when they're at the beach clubs or within the nightclubs, whereas probably like Monday to Friday, like 12 hours a day they're working. So I do think probably going as a business owner is a hell of a lot better than going as an employee, to be honest.
Having the freedom, but it also takes a certain type of person to be able to get out there and create a new social structure around them, make a lot of new friends, and getting the right sort. I've never been great at that. I usually kind of gravitate towards sports where I'd meet other people, like golf or tennis or whatever, but it's like you see people that are just naturals at going in a new environment and creating this. And really, if you go somewhere in Dubai, it's about building your network, right? Because that's where the money is being made. So huge opportunity from that. But
100%. I feel like if you stand outside long enough, you're going to get wet. Or like if you're in a barber shop long enough, you're going to get a haircut. So I think if you surround yourself with people who are on the trajectory, obviously like Dubai, everyone deserves to hustle and make money. You're going to inevitably make money. It's like if all your mates play the violin, you'll think it's normal to play the violin, so you'll probably do it. Whereas if all your mates are broke, you'll think it's normal to be broke. And so since moving there, I wouldn't say I've cut off all my mates, but the analogy I like to give is like if I'm driving 15 miles an hour and you're driving 10 miles an hour, obviously incredibly slow, right? But imagine initially that gap's not too big, whereas over enough time, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, a month, it's just gradually gets bigger without even really noticing. And that's kind of what's happened to myself. Like I've obviously I'm at a new kind of stage, and all my mates now have got plenty of money, probably more money than myself, and I think that's a good thing. But at the same time, like, you just naturally just kind of stop speaking to people who are maybe not on the same path or that kind of thing.
I mean, Laurie and I were talking about that a little while ago. You know, we were friends from school before we started in business, and that kind of naturally evolved later on. But you know, we were all part of the same big group of friends, and we don't really hang out with most of them now, because we're just focused on what we're doing, you know, in our business. And you know, I don't have any inclination to go to the football every weekend or go down the pub and you know, on a Friday night. I've got too much stuff going on, you know.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like most of your friends, well, maybe not most of your friends, but like people who aren't business owners or people who just have a 9 to 5 probably can't really relate to that, because like, even sort of like, for instance, my girlfriend would be like, oh, why working, why doing this, why doing that, come do this, and I'm like, I don't want to, like, I'd rather just do my own thing. But yeah, obviously I want to also have like mates who you've probably been with from the very early stage. I've got a few close mates as well who've always supported me, which is good, and I'm still, like I say, very good friends with them to this day, and obviously going to be tomorrow with them. But yeah, I think just over time you naturally drift, and probably I wouldn't say it's more transactional nowadays, but I feel like any relationships in terms of like friends I have nowadays, it's more not transactional but mutually beneficial. We both benefit each other in some way. It might not be like, for instance, like, I'm not gonna say we're there to make each other money, but you might just have someone around you who makes you laugh. So that's their like benefit. They'll go, oh, he's funny, get him out, or he's whatever. If you want to be highlighted as someone who doesn't contribute anything, he's not funny, he's not. Like, do you know what I mean?
Well, it can be even worse. It can be someone who drains you of energy, you know. Exactly. And there's so many people that feel loyalty to someone because they've known them for a long period of time, but every time they're around them, you just drain the life out of them, drag them down, leave them feeling depressed. It's like, you need to help yourself in that situation. You can also try and help them, but at the very least, you know, help yourself. Yeah,
no, 100%. I do think, helping yourself is massive. Like, I've also tried to help other people. For instance, like my brother, I've tried to show him how to do dropshipping. He just works regular 9 to 5, not interested. And so I've like, that's probably something I realised is like not everyone's got to be on the same path as yourself. So just, and for an initial stage, like when it's not kind of worked out yet, or you're not at the level you want to be, then you'll kind of be quite isolated, because you're not kind of as close with your old mates, and you don't have any new mates who are on that level that maybe want to hang around with you. So.
And it can make people quite uncomfortable around you when you're trying to do something that is out with the norm. Or, you know, the parents don't like it because, you know, they just want you to have a stable job, and that is their known way of security, and it doesn't exist because the job can get rid of you tomorrow, you know, rather than have the skills to be able to create something. And even as an entrepreneur, you can lose everything tomorrow in terms of a business, but it's the skills that you have that allow you to rebuild and re-go.
Yeah,
you know?
100%. I think like that's why I'm massive on skills, learning skills either through YouTube, online education, courses, mentorships, because that's something, like you said, you always have. You could be going with your wife, and you could obviously get a divorce, and she could take half your money or all your money, and you'd be completely fine because you have the skills. That's one thing they can't take away from you, no matter what. And so learning the skills, obviously, of any business, and for me it's sales and marketing. If you learn them, you'll never go broke again, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. So the final question I always ask on the podcast is, what does real wealth mean to you?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question. To me, probably just doing what you want, where you want, when you want, living life on your own terms. To me, obviously not just a monetary aspect, because most people measure wealth as money because it's easy, it's a numeric value, whereas to me you don't want to be one dimensional. You will have money, you will have relationships, you will have health, and for me, obviously, that's with anxiety. As soon as that went, didn't give to anything. I didn't care about the money at all. That became my priority, and so to me it's doing what you want, where you want, when you want. And to me, I'm retired. I'm only 22 years old. And for me, there's kind of different levels of retirement. For the first ones, become obviously like a monk, don't spend any money, so you don't actually need to make a lot of money, you can do what you want. Second one's obviously work, do something you love, and it would never feel like work. So that's the second way. And the third way is obviously to, like, I don't even know where I was going with that, but just be retired and like have the standard. I'd
probably say that the third one is probably being able to combine your life in such a way that work and life merge into one. You know, so there's no distinction between the two, it's just life. And that's where entrepreneurship can be really, really powerful. Yeah, and I think it's a common misconception that, you know, the word wealth comes from well-being, which is much more realistic than money, right?
Yeah.
Much more realistic. And there's few people that ever get to the point where they even think, what does my ideal life look like? Because most people will just say, you know, I want to make a lot of money so I don't have to work. Well, what does that look like? Because the reality of not getting up every day and having a purpose is a pretty shitty one.
Yep. Yeah.
So what does your ideal life like? And there are genuinely probably people out there that could play golf every day or tennis or fill their life that way, but for most of us we need a purpose. And it's understanding that retirement is not this amazing golden ticket where you just sit with your feet up, because that's not how we're designed as humans. We have to be moving forward, evolving, otherwise, you know, depression kicks in, unhappiness, the massive cause of death from people at the age of retirement is what they call pseudo-tachycardial cardiomyopathy, which is broken heart syndrome, because they lose purpose. And it's like an anxiety attack that enlarges the size of your heart and causes a cardiac event. It happens to tens of thousands of people every year.
It makes sense.
Just because they completely lose purpose. So,
I do think retirement is a scam, because it's predicated on the fact that you hate your job. Because if you loved your job, why would you want to quit? Do you know what I mean? And so, like you say, when you're sitting about doing nothing, like, I couldn't have been getting anything worse. Obviously, it's, you need to have balance. But yeah, when I'm sitting at the beach clubs, most of the time I was like, I can't wait to go back in just the water or run the ads.
It's all about balance in life for me. You know, I love a bit of time in the sun, but, you know, I like to mix that up with doing work, being able to dip in there. I want to keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on there. And I feel like I can merge work and a holiday in a way that makes sense for me, at least. But it's quite a personal thing, you know. Everybody needs to figure out what's right for them. But the thing is, you know, going on this wealth journey, entrepreneurship journey, it gives you the opportunity to actually explore that, and otherwise most people in a job will never.
Exactly. Like, having that sort of journey is like when you can explore. Like, I could go to Dubai, and if I don't like it, that's cool, I can come back. At least I give it the option. I could maybe move to Australia, give it a shot. If it doesn't work, but I think going on that journey to try to find wealth. You
might find after your trip to Marbella you're not coming back either. You know?
Exactly. Hopefully, maybe.
Mackenzie Haldane, thanks a lot. Really appreciate you joining us on the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. This has been the Real Wealth Podcast. I'm Alex Robertson, and thanks for joining us on this wealth journey.